So welcome back to Orchid House. I'm Olivier in Fort Lauderdale, and today we're going to talk about stuff that's not so interesting. It is very interesting but not so fun. It might be a little longer than usual. So I get questions about pests and diseases, so I want to cover these two subjects the best I can. Regarding diseases, honestly, I'm going to admit I'm not competent. So it's a very complicated field. Different diseases have similar symptoms. When you go on Facebook and you have people posting and asking questions and say, hey, what's your opinion? Then you have 15 different opinions that range from one end to another of the spectrum. So, and I cannot give an answer myself. So I think if you're interested in the subject, two great sources. I think the most interesting one would be becoming a member of the American Orchid Society and following their webinars. Specifically the ones from Ron McHatton. Ron McHatton is, an amazing source of information regarding that. He's probably one of the best specialists we have in the United States. You can ask questions and he's going to talk about it during the webinar. And even if you don't have specific questions, following the webinar might be a good way for you to learn things. Another great resource is Sue Bottom, and I'll post all these names below the video. Sue Bottom is at the St Augustine in Florida, St Augustine Orchid Society, and she has written many articles on the subject, and they are very interesting. So you can go in their library or even Google it, and she compares a bunch of different products, so it's extremely interesting. So my own added value today, I would say three things that I do that I think matter a lot. First of all, whenever you cut anything, you should sterilize the cut and sterilize the tool. So to sterilize the tool, you use a MAP gas torch, and you stay on it for like 5 seconds. If it's maybe something that you suspect is a bad disease, you stay 15 seconds on there. It's going to kill everything that's on your tool. But it's very important, because if you don't do that, you're going to cut with that infected tool another plant, and you're going to transmit the disease. So hygiene is extremely important. The cut itself, I spray, let me see, I have here hydrogen peroxide, 3%. I spray that pure on the wound, and I usually add a little bit of powdered cinnamon, which is an antifungal. And that should do the trick. When you repot and you cut old roots, you should again spray the root ball with hydrogen peroxide and put some powdered cinnamon. That should help quite a bit. Ventilation is very important. I have an area that has great ventilation, so I don't have a lot of diseases thanks to this. But I still use fans to add to the ventilation. So there's a big fan there at the top that covers most of my growing area. But then on the floor, in corners where the ventilation is more limited, like here, this is pretty stuffy area, so that fan works continuously, and that really helps prevent diseases or reduce the incidence of diseases. Then when it comes to treatment, treating problems are difficult. Sometimes you have to cut a big chunk of the plant, or it's not that easy. Prevention is the best approach, and that's what I do. So I don't go around every month spraying all my plants. What I do basically, whenever a plant stops blooming, and I have a large collection, like 500 plants, a very diverse collection, so I have blooms year round. So when a plant stops blooming, I set it aside and I give it a cocktail of fungicide and bactericide and all that good stuff. And it has given good results, so that's the preventive approach. And like I say, I don't go around and spray everything, because some of that stuff can damage flowers or buds, so then you have to start paying attention to all that. It's extremely complicated. And whenever, again, hydrogen peroxide to me is a go-to for everything. If I see a suspicious spot on a plant, I'll spray a little bit of that, and that can help. So again, trying to identify disease, I'm absolutely not competent to do that. I think hygiene, prevention, ventilation, those are your best friends to avoid diseases. So those were my 2 cents in that regard. I hope they are valuable 2 cents. Now pests, I want to talk about 2 types of pests because those are the ones that I do encounter and I'm pretty good at them. So it's mites and thrips. Thrips, I have hedges all around my property, and I think they harbor the thrips because they are there at all times and they are everywhere. And so again, prevention is the only way, and what I do every week, I go around and spray every single one of the flower buds that are out there. And if I don't do that, I will probably lose at least half of all my flowers, if not more. So that's how bad it is. And I think many people, most people at least here in South Florida, have a problem with thrips. If you grow them outside, outdoors year round, like I do, that's a big issue. So the spraying, I mean, you have different products. You have to do your own research. I mean, Orchids is a very common one that is sold here at the orchid shows and orchid providers. So Orchids stinks, but it's cheap and it does a good job. Now I think it's illegal in 1 or 2 states, so every product that you use, you have to research it because different states have different legislations, and some products that are legal here in Florida may not be legal elsewhere. But so Orchids, except for 1 or 2 states, I think is used extensively everywhere. You have other products that work. I mean, ask around with your friends. What's important is to alternate. Don't always use the same product, because what happens eventually, the pest will develop a resistance to that product, and then it's not going to achieve anything. So by alternating products with different active ingredients, you're going to target the pest differently, and then you will probably avoid resistance. So you alternate all that. So that's for the thrips. Again, prevention is key. Then mites are a nightmare for me. So, and I'll specifically talk about Caracidums and Phalaenopsis, because that's where I have the most issues with mites. But my last video was about Dendrobium anceps, which is a very succulent orchid, and I never thought that mites would go for it, but apparently they do. So what I'm going to talk about, the way to treat them, works for everything, but I'll specifically show what I'm talking about regarding the Caracidums and the Phalaenopsis. So Caracidums, this year, so this is basically mite damage, and if you go at night and you put they usually go for the underside of the leaves, and then they eat away the chlorophyll, and that's why you have these white spots. This is a minor infestation. I've had a great year. I mean, 2 years ago I had a catastrophic year. I was not on top of it during the spring, and then I mean, what happens if you don't do anything? Eventually your leaves, it looks like nothing anymore. It turns all black and they fall off. Now the good thing with Caracidums, they are deciduous. Every year they will lose their leaf regardless, so it's part of the natural cycle. It's not going to kill the plant, but this thing is very contagious. They go from one to another, so you're going to ruin your entire crop for that year. So how do you deal with it? So this year I've had a very good year. I have very, very little incidents. What I'm showing you this, which is not that bad at all, because I don't have any catastrophe right now, and I have a bunch of these guys. So the mites thrive in heat and dry weather. So for us, especially for the Caracidums, they start growing their new leaves in the spring. That's perfect time for the mites to attack, because the temperatures are rising constantly and it's very dry. There's no rain usually in the spring here in South Florida. So then they start growing and attacking all your plants, and if you don't do anything, I mean, it's going to be a disaster. And the life cycle of a mite is very, very short. I mean, 3, 4 days, 5 days, and there's a new generation. So you have to stay on top of it regularly. So there's a lot of work in the spring. I like to go at night with a flashlight and then spot these little white spots in the underside of the leaves, because that's to me the easiest way to see what's going on. A good way, 70%, not the 91%, 70% isopropyl alcohol, pure. You can spray it. It kills the mites on contact. It only kills whatever it touches. So if you miss a spot, these mites are going to survive. Here again it's good to use different products because there's different life stages of the mites, and not all products cover all life stages, and because they reproduce so fast, you really need to stay on top of it like for a month or two regularly. It's kind of annoying, but if you want results, that's really what we should be doing. When you want to kill, this is cheap and readily available. If you want to use products that are meant to kill mites, you have to keep in mind that they are arachnids. It's a spider, and so if you use an insecticide, whatever is labeled insecticide is going to do nothing. So you're going to waste your time. So you need a miticide that kills a mite. There's tons of products. Again, research that. I will mention Avid, which is Sue Bottom considers that one of the most efficient one to fight the mites. Avid is not legal in all states, but it's very effective. It's an expensive product, so if you have a small collection, it's probably not worth it. But there's a bunch of products even sold at the big box retailers that are labeled miticide, and that should do the trick. And again here, it's not just prevention. I mean, when I start treating them, they're already attacked, they are under attack. But it's also, you need to alternate the products yet again, because you have to cover different life stages and you want to avoid them developing resistance. Now that's for the Calasedums. Now I wanted to talk about Phalaenopsis, and at first I never thought they would go after Phalaenopsis. Their leaves are pretty thick and succulent, until I discovered that my collection gets attacked regularly and I have to stay on top of it. So I discovered that a few years ago. I mean, this doesn't look like a very beautiful plant. This was my first awarded plant back in 2019. I was very proud of it, and it was thriving, and then it grew a kiki, which is a baby plant, and then the kiki became as big as the mother plant, and I ended up with 2 plants with 8 big, thick green leaves on each side of both. So I had like 32 leaves. The plant was magnificent. It had lots of flowers. These blooms last for months. They have a nice fragrance. They're especially pretty. So I was really thrilled, and I wasn't really paying attention. And then one day, for whatever reason, I lifted up the plant and I looked at the underside of the leaves, and they were covered in white stuff. I mean, they were. And then what you do with the mites for the Phalaenopsis, you take a Kleenex, you use the alcohol, and then you wipe the leaf, and you should have usually a red residue. There's many different types of mites. I believe mine are red, the red mites. So you have a big red stain, and you've killed a bunch of mites by doing that, but that means they are there. The problem is that they grow in between your leaves in the axil. I mean, they are really tough to see. You only start seeing them once they've spread quite a bit. By then it's already late, and then treating that is extremely difficult. So the mistake I made, that plant was so beautiful and so precious to me, I resisted trimming off leaves, and I should have done that, trimming the lower leaves. And I'm going to so actually what you can do, so this leaf still has residue of what I believe was mite damage. Right now everything is dry, so there's nothing active. But with Phalaenopsis now, you have to be very careful when you do that, but you can peel off a leaf. So you have to do it very gently, because you can break you see it's detaching on one side. It's detaching there. Is that visible? And then you continue peeling it off very gently. And okay, here's your leaf. Now why do I do that rather than cutting? Cutting would be easier. I mean, it feels stressful, but if you're gentle, you can I mean, these Phalaenopsis leaves usually they detach like that. When you do this, because the mites grow in between there, you usually see, and you see there's nothing here, so this is dry actually. But that's when you start seeing a bunch of red mites, and then you have to treat that. And so I should have done that. I didn't. I kept on, first of all, I should have treated every 4 or 5 days, and I waited a month every month. And so that disease continued to spread, and the plant went downhill. I started having leaves with, I don't know what happened there, but all these leaves ended up having these, I don't know if it's fungal or bacterial or whatever, probably bacterial. and I had to cut them off. So the plant went downhill. I've stabilized it 2 years ago. It's still a shadow of its own self, but now all these new growths here are very clean. For the first time I've had a bunch of flowers this year. I mean, this is the end of the flowering season, but it lasted 5 months. So it's back on track, but again, I've lost years of beauty on this plant because of these nasty mites. And if you want to see what, this is a very bad example. It's actually, it's overpotted. It's a very old plant, but you see all that damage. This one, it's not just on the underside, they've attacked everything. Now I've used the Kleenex, I've cleaned everything, and I don't see anything on my Kleenex, so this is all dry and dead. But you really, so when you spray, you go and spray there at the base, and then in the axle, in between the axles. And so that's what I do now. Once a month I just use the isopropyl alcohol, and I go take all my Phalaenopsis and I start spraying at the bottom, and I have very little incidence of mites, but they still come. I mean, occasionally they're going to be around, so mites are a pest. And again, so treat them, stay on top of it, and alternate different product. It's my best advice. So that's it for today. It's a little longer than usual. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.